Some people have to live double lives. I was bullied when I was at boarding school. Painful memories. I have painful memories everywhere, really. Scared of what?
Wow.
Because if people don't agree with me, they're welcome to leave. Do as I say, not as I do. That is power over. And she's my biggest supporter and my biggest critic. That was awful. I'd like to start that again. No one's going to believe you. Why are you here?
Welcome, listeners, to another episode of the Wholehearted Podcast. And today, I'm so excited because finally, right, it's been a few months overdue. I get to interview my good friend, Melissa Indot from Kuala Lumpur. So, Melissa, let's see how we're going to introduce her, right? So, she's a multi-passionate. She identifies herself as a misfit. She is a certified life coach. She is a universal music songwriter and artist. She's a singer, a performer. She's a sound healing practitioner.
Hello, everyone. And hi, Coen. Thanks for having me here.
Hi, Melissa. Welcome to the Wholehearted Podcast.
Thank you.
So let's get started, right? Let's jump right into it. What does being wholehearted mean to you?
Wow. Start with a small question.
We go deep very quickly
Let's
here.
drill into that. What does wholehearted mean? Wholehearted means showing up 100% in the present moment. Showing up just as who you are, like right now. Really expressing how you feel and who you are in this moment.
I like that. I like this about being present, right?
Yeah.
But then why do people sometimes struggle with being wholehearted?
My belief is, and also through experiences, from the moment that we're born, we're conditioned to behave and speak and dress appropriately. This is the right way to do things. This is the wrong way to do things. We are immediately kind of put into little boxes to help give us a sense of belonging. So I'll go right to the basics. You're a boy. We start with gender usually, and then the names that are associated with gender, and then the appropriate way to dress according to your gender as well. And so we are instantly conditioned to fit into these little boxes so that it feels safe, so that we form our identities around it. But it's not what we choose, because obviously as babies and as we grow up, we're looking to be guided by the adults and the caregivers around us. But at some point, and it's normally during puberty, we start to question this. And it's normally seen as rebellion. It gets blamed on hormones. And we start to question our identity. Some of us have the audacity, one can say, or the courage to rebel. And others, in order to feel safe, stay locked within these definitions, but inside are struggling to be who they are.
You just named the challenge, right? The struggle, the tension, right?
Exactly.
So how do people typically deal with this tension, right? This separation between who they really want to be and who they were told to be or conditioned to be?
Many different ways. Some people find their tribe, it's often referenced as. They find people who resonate with them and that they feel safe with. And so they migrate where they live and function to the people who know who they are, who accept who they are exactly as they are. Some people have to live double lives, right? And I think most of us have lived double lives at some point of our lives, and probably many of you watching are still living double lives. And there's no right or wrong, right, Coen? It's just what life is, and it's what we do to survive. It's what we do to manage. We have to wear a certain hat. We have to behave a certain way in work to advance our careers. Whether we're corporates, whether we're even freelancers, there is a certain way things have to be done in order to make life smooth, even though it may not be smooth for us personally. And then we have our personal lives, right? We have our personal lives at home with our families, our extended family, our family of origin. We have our lives with our friends and our community. So we're playing many different roles.
As I'm listening to you, right, what comes to my mind is this image of it's not a 2D, it's not a 3D, multiple dimensions. We almost like exist in these multiple dimensions at the same time.
Exactly.
And having to manage the tension of it all.
We're carrying this burden of actually fulfilling the identities and the roles that actually we think other people need or want or demand of us. But at the end of the day, it's also what we think. And we don't have to abide by those expectations. We do. Why? Because ultimately as humans, We want to belong, we want to connect,
Yes.
and we want to feel safe.
There's one piece I want to jump straight in here, but then it's like I'm just holding my tongue for that because I think there's other pieces here that we can unpack, right? So you're talking a little bit about, it's like we think what people want from us. But sometimes we hold on to them so much that it becomes a prison that we imprison ourselves with, even long after people have just moved on.
Yeah.
Right? Sooner or later, we have to kind of like make our own choices. We have to have our own agency.
Yeah.
But then we make those choices from a very, very limited, realm of reality that we allow ourselves to accept because we have already kind of like fit ourselves into that box.
Yes, we're functioning on autopilot. So at first, especially as we're growing up, we're deciphering what feels safe.
Yes.
Right? And it's very intuitive. We're not thinking about this. It's like, okay, this behavior gets this kind of response, right? This behavior gets a different kind of response. So we tend to mold ourselves into behavior that feels safe. And circumstances change and the world changes, but without awareness, and we remain stuck in these patterns of behavior.
Nice.
Until ultimately life starts to kick us, encouraging change. But that kick, I would say in my life experience and the people I work with, looks like struggle. Normally when we're really starting to struggle, it's because whether you're spiritual, you're religious, or even you believe in science, energetically something is pushing the need for you to change.
Yeah.
Expansion.
Yeah. Just because you're a nervous system coach, right? So I think you're the right person to be talking about this. I think we'll dive into this in a moment, right? But you did mention this word about safety.
Yeah.
So I want to come to this part. You have an unconventional childhood, right?
Okay.
You grew up abroad and you spent many years overseas.
Yes. So
Tell me more about that.
Sure. I was born in Malaysia and I grew up in Malaysia. I went to a private English-speaking school. My mom was a teacher there. And I'm the youngest in my family by over a decade. So I have two siblings who are much older than me.
Oh, wow. You're the baby.
I'm the baby. Yes. Loving it. But also having, and I think many people who are watching this who are also maybe the youngest with a big gap, I don't know if you have this share similar experience, but as I was growing older, it almost was like growing up with two sets of parents.
Interesting.
But I went to boarding school for secondary school education in the UK. So I kind of left home in that sense quite early. And then I had a double life. I had my boarding school life in the UK. And then I had my life at home in Malaysia during the holidays. So that's kind of when my double life started to develop even more. And also as kids, I think, again, most of us can relate to this. I'm sure you will relate to this too, Coen. We behave a certain way in front of our family. That safety, what behavior gets rewarded at home, right? And how we are when we're on our own. Maybe breaking some rules, maybe especially kids now today or with online stuff or reading books we shouldn't be reading or hanging out with kids at school we're not meant to be hanging out with or not studying when we should be studying. Anyway, I digress. So yes, my upbringing was split between the UK and in Malaysia. I had two sets of friends and in fact I've skipped a bit because before I went to boarding school I was spending half the year in the UK and half the year in Malaysia because my late father was posted in the UK. He was working for Shell back then. And so my older brother and sister were studying in the UK and my mom had to fly back and forth and she took me with her. So I'd have 6 months of the year at school in the UK and then 6 months of the year at school in Malaysia until 2 years until I reached the age of 8 or 9. Then I was based in Malaysia. Then I went to boarding school, and I was in boarding school until my A-levels. I went to university, hated it, didn't want to study anymore, dropped out and went straight to work at the age of 18 and lived in the UK until I was 30 and worked in the school of life. And basically,
So you left school and then you went to UK to work?
I left school in the UK. I was in the UK from 1987, boarding school, and I never came back. After my A-levels in the UK, I was meant to go to university, and it wasn't for me, and I decided I wanted to go to work, so I started working, and I stayed and worked and started to build an independent life for myself.
I think we know each other for a few months, right? And sometimes we chit-chat off air, and then you did say that when you left Malaysia to go to UK, you couldn't wait to get out of Malaysia.
And I couldn't wait. Because I guess I never really felt like I fit in. And maybe it was because of my early years of spending 6 months in the UK, spending 6 months in Malaysia. In the UK, I was always a foreigner. And when I came back to Malaysia, because my education has always been in English and I speak English at home, I also felt like a foreigner when I was at home because I didn't really speak the language. I only spoke English. So I felt like a misfit from a very early age. But somehow more connected to living in the UK, and maybe because at the time, when we're talking about 90s, the general attitude of society was more open.
Ah, okay.
So it was easier for me to blend in there and to make a life for myself there than here. My parents were very well established in the corporate world, and so I was always so-and-so's daughter. Whereas in England, I could start to build my own identity. I was also so-and-so's sister. My brother and sister also had success in their own entrepreneurial journey.
Oh, okay. So you're kind of like able to forge your own identity,
Yes.
right? That's independent of your relationship with your family.
Yes.
Okay. Because I was just thinking to myself, right? I believe there's a phrase to this. It's called a third culture kid.
Yes.
And it's almost like sometimes if you're born in a certain culture, there's a certain expectation you grew up with. And then there's this whole desire to kind of like break the expectations, right? Because of these expectations, you almost feel like, almost, I would say, suffocated sometimes.
Yeah.
Because I relate to that. I was born and bred in Singapore, but I've always felt like I'm not really Singaporean. I felt very judged by my fellow Singaporeans as well sometimes because they see that, no, he's like, he speaks perfect English, he doesn't speak Singlish, and his interest is like so...
Out there,
It's like so many different interests.
Yes.
Yeah, and I don't typically like the things that a typical Singaporean boy growing up would like.
And you're not striving for the same things either that typically your society might try to mold you to strive towards.
Fascinating though. That's where me and you actually diverge in a sense. I was the eldest in my family.
Okay.
And I was the guinea pig on which my parents practiced parenting.
Sure.
And so my mom was putting a lot of pressure on me to study. And my mom wasn't always having the best relationship with my father when I was growing up. And so I put it on my shoulders to perform well in school, to meet my mom's expectations, because I thought that would please my mom.
Yeah.
And so I was always a good student. Although I hated studying. I don't study because I like it. I study because that's a KPI to it. That's a motivation to do it for my mom. And so I was very typical. And also there's this added pressure of being the elder, right? So you need to be the
Role
model for your younger
I didn't
brother.
have that. Go
For you in a
wild.
sense. But that's where we diverge. But by the same token, I still feel, it's like I performed, but I don't like it. I feel this tension that I come back to, right? I was doing well and I'm supposed to be good, but I wasn't one of the cool kids. I was teacher's pet. I was good student. I wasn't doing cool stuff. I wasn't popular with the girls. I wasn't popular with anyone, in fact. I was never invited to parties, and that's why I felt like a misfit. So I only find out on Monday morning, so has a birthday party at so-and-so's house, or aging myself here, but we used to go to this at McDonald's and nowadays throw a party at McDonald's.
Yes.
And I would only find out about it on Monday because those days have no social media, right?
Yeah.
But I felt very left out. So I felt like a misfit. I felt like I was doing all the right things, but I didn't get the love that I want. Yeah. So it's different, but same but different. Yeah. It's like...
And I love that you're sharing that, especially for your viewers and your listeners. This is a prime example of how we can have similar experiences in life, even though our paths may be completely different. In other words, don't judge someone who has a life that's completely different to yours, because you might be having a very similar experience, just like you and I, having a similar experience, even though the paths are so different.
Yeah, I think we come to this same place, but then we came from different routes, right?
Yeah.
So it's very interesting. Now, so you wanted to go get from Malaysia, right? Also, the other thing is like, I just ask this question. Recently, I had this conversation with a Norwegian lady, and of course, we think of Norway, we think of the beautiful fjords and mountains and hiking trails and beautiful glaciers and everything. And I was like, and that's where I had my honeymoon. And she's Norwegian. She grew up there, and she's like, I don't like Norway. And I was like, in my head, I was thinking, are you kidding me? It's like, you're so lucky. You were born in Norway. You struck the lottery. But then it of course occurred to me that I think that's the place of a origin wound, of origin suffering. Maybe she had a hard time growing up. And then she started telling me her stories of how she had a hard time growing up. Then it occurred to me that, it's like Norway is where she had all that painful experiences. Just like when I grew up in Singapore, I had all those painful experiences, which is why maybe we have certain emotional anchors around that place. Was that the case for you, or is this just not the case at all?
That's interesting, actually. It's an interesting question. I never thought about it that way. I've had I was bullied when I was at boarding school. And interestingly enough, if I really were being very honest with myself, I was probably a bit of a bully myself before I went to boarding school. So I was, like you, was an A student, and I was kind of like one of the cool kids. At least I think I was one of the cool kids.
You are cool.
And I had my own gang of girls in primary school. And I kind of went to boarding school very cocky, very, very arrogant in a way. Or maybe I was confident and it was read as arrogant, and got lost in a sea of, British girls and international girls. So,
Were you arrogant because you were insecure? How sometimes bullies kind of like big themselves up because they are really insecure inside, and so they kind of like deal with it by bullying other people? Or were you really cocky, or because you have earned your stripes, so to speak, you are really confident about yourself?
I imagine I was having probably in a growth period of my life at that age, and even as a child, right? Pushing boundaries, like maybe pushing the boundaries of what my identity is, right? So seeing how far I could push the boundaries, and often that's what bullying can also be about. How far can I push my power, my boundaries? But, having said that, like I said, the life in itself is a beautiful bank balance. If you're going to bully, you got to be ready to fall victim of bullying. And if you fall victim of bullying early, without awareness, it's very possible that you'll then become a bully too. It's almost like this payback in life. So I was bullied when I was at boarding school, and painful memories. I have painful memories everywhere, really. But at the same time, I think over the years, I've learned to give that pain a bit of a purpose. So what has it taught me? And maybe people read this a lot and they see this a lot online, and it's become a bit of a cliche. I think it's only become a bit of a cliche when we try to unpack things mentally. But really, we need to process from a nervous system perspective.
Yes.
We need to process how that experience really landed in your body and whether that experience still makes you feel safe or unsafe. And if that memory makes you feel unsafe still, how can we reprogram the nervous system?
So profound.
It's kind of, as I'm saying it as well, it's a lot to kind of explain, but it's about, memories are basically experiences that we feel in our body.
But I want to go there. Right? There's two pieces, right? It's like that I saw, I heard. The first piece is experimenting and pushing the boundaries of your identity. And what I'm hearing is you're exploring your relationship with power. And I think power is one of those things that governs a lot of our lives, and we don't talk about it enough, right? In this world, there is an asymmetry of power. In our capitalist world, there are certain people with that kind of wealth, right? Unimaginable wealth that they can, like even drive stock prices up and down on a daily basis because of what the power they can wield. And of course, we talk about authority power. We're talking about legislative power, all kinds of power, right? And so I think there's a lot of power imbalances, and many people don't have a healthy relationship around power. They don't actually experience it from a young age. They either experience it and they kind of let us go, you know what, we are at the lower class, so we'll just resign and resign to our lot in
they're
life.
Powerless. They feel they're powerless.
Yes, they feel powerless, and they almost like outsource power, right? But some people they bounce the other way around. They become power hungry. So they become power brokers. They want to, how can I get more power? How can I get more power? And of course, some people do not know how to get power, so it becomes expressed in proxies like likes, followers, popularity, right? Because when you're in school, popularity is power. And so I think what I'm hearing is your exploration of your relationship with power. What are some of the lessons you learned from there?
Definitely long-lasting, overarching lessons about the difference between the power within, the power behind, and the power over.
Wow, that's gold.
So the power within, the power behind, and the power over. I think our modern world, for too many centuries now, has been ruled by power over, right? dictatorship. No, we're not going to get too political and certainly not going to name any names.
No
'cause
names, but we
yeah,
know. We know.
Right? Where
We know,
it's
we
like,
know.
do as I say, not as I do. That is power over, right? And then you have the power, I said that power within, which ultimately I think is where is the saving grace of humanity, will be the saving grace of humanity as we raise the consciousness of humanity. And we talk about consciousness, meaning for me is self-awareness. When I know myself, I know how powerful I really am. Even in my most powerless moment, I have the power to curate my thoughts. And through curating my thoughts, choosing my thoughts that make me feel big, thoughts that make me feel small, thoughts that influence my feelings, because my feelings will then influence my actions. My actions will then influence my life. And the repeated actions are going to create my lifestyle. And therefore, I'm going to form my identity around that. That's the power within. And that comes from self-awareness, knowing yourself. But we are conditioned to give our power away constantly through likes, through impressions, through popularity, through permission, meaning I need someone else to validate who I am before I feel it's okay.
Yes.
Right? And that begins from childhood.
Yes.
Right? We look to our caregivers, our parents, for validation. So our adult life is a whole adventure, actually, of unpacking this or unlearning this.
Yes, yes.
To rediscover who we really are before we were conditioned.
Yeah.
So that's the power within. Self-awareness, we can say the lens.
Nice.
Do I know who I am? Do I really know? Do you know who you are, Coen?
Sometimes I do, sometimes I don't.
Yeah. And
it's a fleeting thing, right? It's not all those, some people think, oh, I've done a lot of inner work, I've healed, so I know who am I. A lot of it is just self-delusion. They have done a lot of spiritual bypass, right?
Yeah.
So they have actually processed, like you come to the word just now you mentioned about processing, right? Post-traumatic growth comes from intentional rumination.
Yes.
Not intrusive rumination. Intrusive rumination is the kind of things like in the middle of the night, 3 a.m., you kind of like, why am I like that? Why is this happening to me? Why does things always happen to me? There's victim rumination. And also maybe a bit of a blaming. It's kind of like, why does my ex-wife, ex-partner,
do this to me?
Ex-boss, why did they do this to me? Why did they betray me? Why? So there's that rumination that just brings you spiraling downwards. But the real intentional rumination is really a question about what is it revealing about me? What is the lesson? What's the bigger lesson that I can learn from this? Or does it tell me what is something that I need to stop doing, undo? What do I need to unlearn? What is it that I need to do differently, right? And so I think that's where the real work, the real post-traumatic growth comes from.
Yeah, I love that. I love how you put that. Yeah.
Yeah.
And in a world that is currently built, and that's breaking down though, but it's currently built to control us, right? It's important more than ever for us to start asking these questions. Why am I doing what I'm doing? Okay, I went to college, yes, I have this degree, I have this job, and I have this career, and even I'm in this relationship, right? And do I still want to be here? And a lot of people are, because of societal pressures, know that things are not right for them, right? Know they need change to feel better, to be healthier, mentally, physically, emotionally, even spiritually, but are afraid of what society will tell them, how society will label them if they make a change.
Or invalidate them or disapprove of them.
Yeah. Reject them, isolate them,
And what about power behind? Because you mentioned just about power behind. That's a new one. I've heard of power within, power over, but what's power behind?
A power behind, I believe, is the new kind of leadership we are seeing in humanity right now. And it's a more subtle power. And I believe it's the kind of work and the kind of power people like you bring into this space, which is we have conversations like this. You have and you create environments and opportunity to have conversations like this, where we can explore self-awareness, but we also explore different perspectives and different points of view. And when you mentioned this earlier, even just before this podcast recording,
Yes.
right?
Yeah.
It's when we sit in conversation or we sit in a room with people and we lift each other up.
Yes.
We provide a larger platform for each other's voice.
Yes.
Because every opinion, every perspective matters. You may not agree, and we don't have to agree because we're different people living different realities. But what's most important is that we acknowledge that there is a different perspective,
Yeah.
that there is a different reality. And in that person's reality, what they've shared is real and true.
Yeah.
So that's what I mean by the power behind it. It's a leadership that we all have the opportunity to step into, where I hold space for my truth,
Nice.
right? And quietly support a very different truth from someone else, even, and this is the ultimate, even if it, not the word is not compromise, even if it challenges my truth. In fact, the more that it challenges my truth, the more opportunity there is for me to expand my awareness.
That's a very high level skill, right? That's a very profound level skill.
That's wholehearted. If you're wholehearted,
Yeah.
then you bring everything into your heart. Everything is possible. Anything is possible.
It's kind of like the mark of an educated mind's ability to hold opposites without judgment. And this,
Or even with judgment. I hold the opposite. I don't like this. I don't agree. But I can still hold it in me.
wow. Now that segues nicely to this conversation about safety, because you mentioned safety
yeah.
a couple of times, and I think I want to come to that now.
By the way, I just want to say,
Yeah.
Coen is an expert interviewer and podcaster.
Oh, thank you.
Really, you are.
Thank you. I want to come back to that because I'm hearing you talk about safety a few times, and I know that's very important to you. We talk about nervous system regulation, and I think it also takes a lot of internal safety to be able to hold that conversation, particularly if I disagree with you, particularly even if I feel like punching you in the face, right? It's like what you say triggers me so much. But how do I then stay within that moment in safety?
That's a great question. And that is the source of all our battles and conflict and war in the world today, is basically someone having an opinion that we're taking it personally. So you have an opinion, you have a perspective of something that when it triggers me, it's because I think or I believe the mind or even the nervous system feels threatened. So you're telling a story about something that happened to you, and I'm interpreting it, the mind is interpreting it as, you did this to me. You did it to my people. You did it to my gender. You did it, for example.
Oh, yeah.
Right? So you could be just talking about experiences
Gender is such a big
right?
one, yeah.
And I'm making it about me because something resonates in me.
Yeah.
Something makes me feel threatened, right? And maybe it's because it's my people that you're talking about. It's people that I belong to. It's a group that I belong to. And so the practice is to be able to listen and remove yourself from the conversation.
Wow, that's very high level. Some Zen stuff, man. Removing myself, detachment, like.
Yeah, and I don't know what the right word is. It's a detachment. You're like not entangled with your own personal views. Yeah, entanglement. Because the thing about detachment is, I don't want to be shut down. I still want to feel what you felt. I still want to be able to experience at some level what you're talking about without making it about me, right? Everybody has different experiences, even in conflict.
I don't know whether that word lands with you, but the word that came to me is enmeshment with our identity. Because you mentioned something about, if you say something that threatens my tribe, my people, if it's my people, it may not always be a bad thing, right? That's what people like visionaries go to. Martin Luther King is like, I'm going to fight for my people. There's an element of contribution to that. But what very often happens is not so much of what you're doing to my people. What's more important is what you're doing to my sense of identity, right? Because I'm so wrapped up with my own identity, right? It's like whether you're Malaysian, you're Singaporean, you're American, you're Chinese, or but there's this whole identity that we are enmeshed. We are so wrapped up in that identity. And what you say threatens that sense of identity. And it's almost like if you disarm that identity, who am I?
Yes.
And that's not okay. And then I would go to fight with you on that. And I mean, as I'm saying this, I'm co-discovering this process together with you. This is a fascinating conversation. I'm enjoying this a lot.
Me too.
Is that what, I mean, I don't know if that lands with you because that's what I'm seeing.
Sure, and of course, we're having this conversation. I'm sharing my perspectives with you, and it's something that I there's no mastery here. The mastery is in the practice. It's in showing up every single day. I'm knowing when to go deeper in conversations, when to open up to opportunities to go in deeper conversations. I would not have this conversation I'm having with you on this podcast with anyone, because not everybody is there yet, and even for those of us who are there, some days we're not. Every day looks different. But with this awareness, knowing that typically we all take things personally.
Yeah.
Ultimately, it's natural for us to take things personally. Hey, you're talking about my people, or you're talking about my gender, or you're talking basically about an enmeshment, I can't say the word, that I have with an identity.
Yeah.
It doesn't mean it's me. It's that part. It's an identity that I relate to. So it's about me at the end of the day. Do I still want to relate with this identity? And in terms of compassion, is it not possible for an identity that I relate to have a shadow? Shadow meaning a dark side, an aggressive side, an abusive side, a predatory side. Life is all about light and dark, good and bad. So am I able to embrace that and say, let's just use an example as my people. My people are calm, loving, kind, but they also have the potential to be aggressive. Can I hold both truths?
Hey there, I hope you're enjoying the episode so far. Don't worry, we'll be right back in a moment. Remember to show the Wholehearted Podcast some love by giving us a 5-star rating on Spotify, Apple Podcast, or whatever platform you're consuming this podcast episode. Or give us a thumbs up on YouTube. If you think somebody will benefit from listening to this episode, why not share it with them as well? Your support will help us create a much greater impact. Thank you so much and enjoy the rest of the episode. We're going to the depth of the forest, the jungle. Yeah. But there's this piece here when you just now mentioned, mentioned in passing, right? That identity that I'm enmeshed with. But what if I'm not that identity? That's a very powerful question, right? It's like there's almost a separation from the identity, because it's like we often, when we are so enmeshed with our identity, we cease to be agile. We cease to be fluid. We become fixated. And I think the word is fixated, right? And when we become so fixated, we become very impossible to talk to at a point in time, or communicate with, to communicate is to commune, right? It's to kind of travel together. Right, so it's like the moment I become so fixated, I just can't travel in the same direction with you anymore, and it's like,
and I'm stuck in one place, right? If I'm fixated with one concept, if I'm so preoccupied with defending my identity, or defending one point of my identity, I'm going to miss the opportunity to learn another layer of my identity. We judge things, this is good and this is bad. But what if we remove that? What if we remove good and bad? And we just like, this is something else that my identity holds. Yeah. Taking away the bad and good. It's what it is. Because anything good can look bad depending on your perspective.
True that.
And anything bad could look good from another perspective.
You're a performer, right? So you're used to big energy on stage, you're used to the applause and everything. So that's great, right? Because you're adding value to the world. You're performing, you're bringing joy to people with your songs, you're bringing joy, hope, you're giving permission for people to get up and dance or whatever it is, right?
And sometimes I make people cry.
They make you cry. But the shadow side of that is you do enjoy sometimes that limelight. And if you are not able to manage that, you take that back into your own relationships. With your partner, with your family. Yes. And it's like, who do you think you are, diva? So that's a shadow side, right?
Yeah, and I'm very, very, very open and proud even to admit that sometimes that diva does come out, and I have to check myself. You're not on stage right now. This is not your stage. Very honest, and I tell people this very openly. When you come to my show, I own the stage. You own the audience space, and I own the stage. So I give myself permission to do whatever I want on stage. But my highest value is always freedom and safety. Well, safety first. So even though I own the stage, I'm making sure that I keep that space safe for everybody, safe for everyone to show up as they are.
Nice.
And the freedom to speak and behave in a way that they feel safe to, as long as it doesn't cause harm in others. So I'll give you an example. Sometimes people talk during the show, right? So they feel free, they feel comfortable. But once that level of conversation starts to interrupt the show, I will call the audience out. I will request that they stop talking, because it's my stage, and I will protect the integrity of my audience who have come to watch me perform.
Nice.
So that also is, it's the power. It's the power from behind and also the power from within, not the power over. I don't tell people what to do. I just create an awareness and I say, everybody's here to enjoy the show. And if you're talking at a certain volume, you're interrupting people's enjoyment of my show. So I spread awareness in that way.
Yeah, I like that. The line of travel, I like that. So there's a power within which you draw boundaries. You're very clear about drawing boundaries.
Yes.
You know what you're here to serve. You're here to
Yes.
serve the audience.
Yes.
And that doesn't serve the enjoyment of the rest of the audience.
Correct,
And you've got to
yes.
call that out.
I gotta
So
call that
that's power within. Right, that's so powerful because there's so many things that we keep quiet. We don't want to ruffle feathers. We don't rock the boat. We are like, so we put up a lot of things. There was this piece we want to come to just now, right? We were talking about, like having safety, having growth and everything. But there's also this element of endurance. It's like, it's okay. I can endure it. I can endure it. It's nothing. It's nothing. But the moment you endure, there's two things you're doing, right? Number one, for yourself, the damage is you're operating beyond your zone of tolerance. And when you're operating beyond your zone of tolerance, what's going to happen is you're going to break down sooner or later.
Yeah.
Bessel van der Kolk says the body keeps the score.
Yes.
Right? So you're going to break down sooner or later. The second element of that is that you're teaching the world that it can throw more shit your way because you can endure. And then you're teaching the world to kind of like abuse you. And the more you can endure a toxic relationship, you are enabling it. I think there's this whole element of endurance, right? So I think a lot of people sometimes mistake enduring for resilience.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, especially in our hustle culture world. Especially. It's like if I can push through, that makes me stronger, that makes me... This is where resilience is thrown around left, right, and center, like, like it's something, like it's a badge of honor, a bit like burnout. People now understand about burnout a little, so now it's all about resilience. And endurance, that's where the self-awareness piece comes in again. Why am I doing this? Why am I pushing through? Am I pushing through to perform? Am I pushing through to achieve something that's external to me, right? At the cost of my own health? Then it's no longer endurance. So it becomes destructive.
Yeah. So so coming back to wrap up this point here, so you're saying that this is my stage, this is my performance. I'm here to the contribution of the greater enjoyment of everybody.
Yes.
And you talking is not okay. And so we need to call that out.
I'm willing to call that
enjoy
out. I'm saying, but talking is perfectly okay. People are here, paid good money to come and watch this show. They didn't come here to hear you talk.
Nice.
They didn't come to hear and be secondary audience of your conversation. So I respect your conversation, but there's a time and a place, and it's not here and now.
Okay.
I've had people leave my show before when I've said that before, and I can feel the audience kind of, and even my band members look at me like, my God, aren't you scared? And I'm like, scared of what?
Wow.
Because if people don't agree with me, they're welcome to leave. Hold two truths. I can hold two truths. My truth and your truth. I'm not going to force you to stay. But the ticket is bought to come and see a musical performance, not for somewhere that you come and have a conversation all the way through the show.
And then this element, this dynamic right here is like there's this power for behind. It's like kind of like that drives you to kind of serve the audience and everything. But where does that power become distributed power? Where does that audience take that power and take it as a permission to be free? Because freedom is one of your values,
Yes.
right? And when you perform from value, not just perform, I think the word perform is a bit of an anomaly even here. It's a bit of an oxymoron. You're not performing, you're being, right? People can tell the difference between performance and being because when you're being, you're authentic. But when you're performing, people can see that as a show.
Yes.
It's a facade, right? So, but you're performing, but you're coming from a very deep space of freedom. And so the audience picks up on that.
Yes.
And it becomes a permission giver. Yeah. So how does power get transferred from a place of higher pressure to a place of low pressure? I'm going to physics here. What are we talking about? This podcast, we talk about physics. Things will travel from place of higher pressure to place of low pressure. But because you have all that freedom that's radiating from you, you give power to the people. I know this is a bit weird, but like how does that power travel? Between people? Again,
great question. This is why I say Coen is a brilliant interviewer. We talk about the process of entrainment. In basic levels, it's about vibration and frequency. You put enough people in one room and you create something very steady, whether it's a rhythm or a tune, and we will pick up on each other in a group and we will start to resonate with each other. Okay, so I come in with an energy that's not power over. Because if it's power over, then people tend to shrink or they'll try and push against it. So you've got two different types of energy, one that takes over the other energy or you have one that's going to resist it. And so the energy becomes like this.
Okay.
Or you come in like I do, and there's a lot of preparation and years of practice of this. Even for every show, I'm extremely nervous. And it's the same for workshops. It's the same if I speak, whatever it is. If I have to get on a stage to deliver, to be present, to share something, I have to do a lot of prep because I have to make sure my ego, which is normally where the power over lives, my ego is in check. And I ask myself the very question that you mentioned earlier. Why am I doing this? Who am I serving? And what am I serving them? So for me, whether it's a musical show or an event, or it's a workshop, or it's a talk, my intent always is to uphold the values of safety, freedom, and curiosity.
Oh, I love it.
Right? So safety first. I'll come in, I'll normally crack a joke, or I'll say something. I'll normally call out how I feel. So I'll normally say, especially at that moment, I'll call, what I'm feeling at that moment. Oh my God, I'm really nervous. And I'll show them, look at my hands. And I'll just be real. Be me and say,
real.
God, I need to take a few breaths. Will you breathe with me? And I invite them into my world. That is safety.
So beautiful.
Safe enough to call what is true. And what is true is right now I'm standing in front of, whether it's 25, whether it's one person, whether it's thousands of people watching the podcast, or I'm in a stadium, and just say, I'm human. I'm nervous, I'm scared, I'm shaking. Look, can you breathe with me? And suddenly everybody is in the same space. Then the energy, when the safety is there, the freedom starts to flow, right? And then the energy grows. And that permission that you talk about, suddenly people also feel free to be themselves and be honest. And we can call it vulnerable, we can call it authentic, but to feel what they feel. And maybe that permission is so big that people start having conversations with themselves that get loud and right? Exactly that.
Okay.
So now how can am I being a hypocrite if I'm saying you can be free, or energetically saying that, and then calling people out and shutting them down for feeling free enough to have that conversation?
But they are free to leave too, right? As you said.
Exactly. So that energy we're talking about, right? High pressure, low pressure, right? The high pressure and everything gets evened out. And then there's just this pressure. My biggest responsibility is to hold the container.
Yes.
So when we're entrained and we're in the same sort of vibration of joy and love and curiosity and play and fun, and someone goes a little bit off tangent, because now if you're having your own conversation, you're now separate to the group, right? You're now pushing yourself out of the container. I have to hold the container. So the invitation is, if you'd like to stay in, stay within the energy of us, stay connected. Don't have your own conversation, right? Or permission to leave. And then come back later when you've had your conversation.
Wow.
Does that answer the question?
Wow. Okay. The word that came to me is really co-regulation, right? Because you are you're like a tuning fork, right? You are this very, very safe space within, right? So that permeates outwards. People feel it. People feel that the permission is given. People radiate off it. People regulate themselves around that. And then there's a lot of mental preparation. I totally get what you're saying, because I'm a speaker myself. And very often I agonize about every single speech I was going to give. Right to the moment I get on stage, I'm nervous. And I'm like...
That perfection that we strive for. Even if we say don't, it's there. We want to serve our best.
Yeah, sometimes I go to a keynote speech, right? It's like I am about to go on stage, right? But the CEO is before me. He's going to give an opening speech. And I am sometimes also changing my slide on the spot as the CEO is speaking, because I say, hey, that's a very good point. I want to do a callback on the CEO's point, right? So that's actually serving the audience. It's serving the CEO. It's serving the organization. I say, your CEO said that it aligns with my message. And then there's that element of buy-in. And people say, that makes sense. So I do that, right? I'm perfectionist. But the moment I get on stage, I'm just with the audience. I'm not here, like I said, I don't like guru speak. I'm not like power over, because when you have a power over people, you, like you say, you trigger their fight, flight response, right? And fawn response, right? But when you have a power with people, you trigger their parasympathetic nerves, right? People co-regulate with you. People go and feel, this is a safe space. This is safe, right? The speaker is nervous, but it's okay. He's saying that he's nervous, right? And we can relate to that. We have all been nervous before. We have all been there before. And people are not bad people. They want everyone to win in life. They want you to succeed, right? So That's so much power in that, right? So when you co-regulate with people, I can resonate with everything that you say. So powerful.
It is. And it comes over time. There's even been times when I've started things again because, especially with my music shows, if I start something and I don't, and it's even to this perfectionism, I kind of own it sometimes. If I started a song and I feel like it started badly, even though the audience has not noticed, I will literally stop and start again. And the audience are like, well, what are you doing? Even my musicians are like, oh, are you doing this? This is like imperfect. And I'm like, and I'll tell them, that was awful. I'd like to start that again. And they're like looking at me in shock. And I even explained to them, you've invested good money to come here. I want to give you the best. Can I have your permission to start that song again? And they're like, yeah.
Of course, right? It's like, why not, right?
Because at the end, it's back to, why am I doing this? I'm not doing this because my ego feels bruised. I'm doing this because my purpose is to serve at the highest level.
So beautiful. So beautiful. I can't have this conversation forever. I want to talk about this piece, right? Where you're multi-passionate. So am I. Sometimes we talk about the world wants you to choose a lane, right? It's like when you were young, it's like, no, Melissa, what you want to be when you grow up? You're going to be an engineer, accountant, lawyer, doctor, fireman, pilot, air stewardess, whatever, right? We all put things into silos. And even you start a business on your own, you want to be a coach. Okay, cool. What kind of coach are you, right? Yeah. You need to choose a niche, but you need to pick a lane.
Yeah, gosh.
But what if your lane is like five lanes deep, right?
It's like an LA highway, a lane, 8 lanes.
Oh, LA, oh yeah.
And then they'll say, if you serve everybody, you serve no one, which I get at some level.
Yeah.
But like you say, for multi-hyphenates or multi-passionates, it's not that easy. Like you, how do you deal with it?
It's always a practice. First of all, I think it's important. Very often, I speak from my perspective as a Singaporean. Our government give a lot of funding for people to go for causes, right? So we give funding. Is when HRDF companies kind of like contribute to this fund, and then it's like, since you contribute to this fund, you might as well use it, right?
Yeah.
But in Singapore, the government actually give funding for you to go for causes.
Wow.
And it's like part of our own fund for upgrading. And so a lot of Singaporeans are taking this for granted, upskilling recently around, you got this, or attend your bar, right? One question about also help you in your career, right? So I sometimes believe that our over-utilitarian approach to learning kills the joy of learning. Sometimes you learn things not because it's utilitarian. It's like, okay, this I can use at my work. It's going to help me get a promotion at work. It's going to help me increase my sales. But sometimes you just learn for the sake of learning. It just makes you a more interesting person. So recently I did a perfume making class and I thoroughly enjoyed it. I really enjoyed it because I leaned into my olfactory sense, which is something that I always suspected I had because my wife always scolds me about collecting perfumes. Whenever I go, I fly to a different country, I go to this little indie store, mom and pop stores, and I say, this is made with the local ingredients. I want to buy it. So I collect all these bottles of perfumes, and my wife always scold me about it. But I really love I have a sense of olfactory and a gustatory sense. I love cooking. I love eating good food. So I always come here to Kuala Lumpur.
It's connected, right? Nose and taste. So
exactly.
if you lose your sense of smell, you lose your taste. So.
Yeah. So I come here a lot and I always enjoy the food here. So I'm a foodie. I'm a drinky. I'm perfume.
Smelly.
Smelly. Smelly. Is that such a word? Yeah, smelly.
There is today.
So, yeah, there is. We just invented the word. Right? So, but I learned perfume making and it's just like it unlocks something in me, right? It's the storytelling. It's not the perfume itself, right? What does notes, the top notes, the middle notes, the end notes, what does it say about a person? When you experience a person wearing that perfume, what does it say? What story does it tell you of this person? What sense do you get about this person? And I think that it's all part of the storytelling process. And isn't it true? We talk about job interviews, we talk about dating, we talk about speaking, we talk about social media, it's all storytelling, right? It's like, so I always kind of see, I'm very fascinated by the cross-domain application and cross-domain application for all the random useless stuff that I've learned.
And nothing is useless, right? Because even on our conscious mind thinks, oh, well, I can never use this in my workplace. Okay, maybe if it's trigonometry, Maybe not. I mean, maybe that is applicable, trigonometry, using that in your workplace. But maybe the experience of studying trigonometry and the fact that you had to deal with a teacher who was difficult or couldn't explain trigonometry to you in the way that you needed, that experience of trigonometry you might bring into your career. Because you might be more compassionate of someone, a colleague, who is struggling to be understood by your team leader, for example. So what's the word for it? There's a subliminal learnings within that experience, right? But actually in that experience, I hung out with someone who signed up for the course as well, and who shared the story about their lives that impacted me in a huge way, that when I go back to work, I get to bring that to work now. So life is not linear. It's not so black and white. Oh, I sign up for this course, this specific skill I'm going to bring to my workplace. It's actually the experience, what happens at the periphery of that experience, that we also are enriched by.
I recall in my first job, right? We have we are a training organization, right? It's like, so we have a client that absolutely loved this particular speaker from Japan, right? So this speaker, we had to fly this speaker from Japan down to Singapore to conduct these workshops for our clients. But he has a love for Italian food. So every time when he comes out and run workshops, my boss and I would have to take him to a nice Italian restaurant. And for me, who was a fresh graduate, I get to eat fine Italian food for free. I don't mind, on the company's money. But there was this time when we sat down and then the waiter came over and it's like, hey, so what wine would you like to pair with what you're having, right? And my boss was panicky and she just looked at me. And I don't know why, I just look at her and I just go, Chianti Classico. And then the waiter looked at me and goes, this young gentleman knows his wine. And I was like, that was totally random. But how do I remember that? It was because on my grad trip, we went on a tour of Italy, and then we had a 2-hour tour at this little vineyard, and then they were saying, oh, Chianti Classico. And I didn't really know much about wine. I was a poor graduate, right? A fresh graduate, right? So I don't drink a lot of wine, but I just hear the word Chianti Classico said so many times that it just popped into my head, and I just go, Chianti Classico. And the guy was like, oh, wow, you know your wine. So you notice how sometimes this little useless information comes up in a social setting?
Yes.
And my boss was saying, oh, you're a lifesaver. And he was very impressed. Not bad, this young executive, he knows his wine, right? So
Made an impression.
Yeah.
And everything is about, at the end of the day, I love that story, that knowing the potential that lives in you, like that word useless, right? When we're saying, oh, this is going to be useless to me in my life. Well, it's up to you and I and you watching and listening to make it useful. We're always so obsessed with making the right decision. In the same, I like to use this as an analogy of how we frame things as useless, making the right decision. Instead, why don't you focus on making the decision right? So instead of worrying about, oh my God, this is so useless, how can you make it useful?
Oh.
So I'll go back to the decision thing. So we're so obsessed with making the right decision in life, often we don't make the decision. We think we're not making the decision because we want to make the right one. And so we stay stuck. We stay stagnant. We get frustrated. We overthink things, right? And we cause stress. It maybe leads to burnout, blah, 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 blah. So how do we move forward from that fear of making the right decision? Whatever decision you make that the right one. So make the most of the decision that you make.
That's interesting. It sounds like improv, right? It's like improv changed my life. I flew to London in 2018, December, spent 10 days with the founder of improv himself, Keith Johnston.
Wow.
So he's the originator.
Wow.
He passed away a few years ago because he was getting on in age. And it was
wow, what a privilege that you got to meet and experience him before he passed.
And I think I learned so much from it, so profound. The point was, actually life is an improv, right? Coming back to this idea of control, right? We always are so afraid of making the wrong decision because there's a control freak inside us that goes, is this the right one? We want to make sure that we are right. We want to make sure we are safe, right? And so I think safety is not just a state of affairs. Safety is a state of mind, right? Yeah. So we are so concerned about making the right decision, and that we over worry, we over concern and everything like that. And improv really just taught me to just let it go. Right, every moment is an improvisation. You don't know what's going to happen next. And the second piece about that is, of course, the central theme of improv is yes and, not yes but. So when the moment we say yes but, No, you just negated everything.
Yes.
And so when you say yes and, it's not just figure of speech, but it's really a posture towards life.
Yes.
You made a decision, things end up messy, didn't go according to plan. You could go, yes, and I'm going to do something about it.
And it holds two truths, right? The past, the present, and three truths: the past, the present, and the future.
The future is not truth yet, so you don't know.
But it's a potential,
True that.
which is a potential of truth.
Leaning into potential,
Yeah.
right? So there's this whole element of, like improvisation. I think improvisation is so powerful because there's this restoration of agency.
And that's what happens. I mean, obviously, being an intuitive leader, which I believe you are as well, we're living in the moment. Even when you're delivering something, like for me, whether it's a show or a workshop or a talk, again, same thing. I have a structure that I'm working on, but particularly for my live music stuff, and that looks like a show or workshop. I have to tune into who your audience is, read the room.
Yeah.
But actually, more than read the room, because reading is from the mind, and we're assessing and judging. We have to feel the room, right? And and life as a whole changes when you become more connected to yourself, meaning you feel. And that means also getting a hold of your emotions and understanding what your emotions are, understanding what safety feels like in your body, because when you're safe in your body, you can hold any truth. And now we're circling back to the beginning of the conversation. Holding two truths, three truths, four truths, many truths, but holding your own primary. Keeping yourself safe.
What about you? You asked me the question, right? It's like, how do I deal with this whole 5 lanes deep thing? How do you deal with this 5 lanes deep thing?
I always come back to my breath. When I feel overwhelmed and I'm going to be honest, most days I wake up and I feel overwhelmed. Why? Because I am a multi-passionate, and so there's many things I want to do. And it's interesting that you're catching me to do this podcast now in this period of my life, in my 50s, where I'm like, okay, it's time to rein back again. It's time to really look at what do I really want to do with my life? What are the activities I really want to commit to? What areas of service do I want to focus on? What gives me, because there's many things I love, but some of the things that I love, or I think I love, also drain me. So it's about energy. It's coming back to, I can be interested in 10 things, but out of those 10 things, which of those things light me up? Which of those things, day after day, energize me? And so I am refining that right now. And it is a task. I'm not going to lie. Decades on of being hyper independent and also priding myself on this identity of being a multi-passionate, I'm really having to ask the question very deeply. Yes, you like this, but doesn't it drain you just a little bit? I have to ask the question differently. And so that's why now in this stage of my life, I'm honing right down to everything being music-based, bringing everything back to music, because music brings me back, everybody back actually, music and sound, to their bodies. And we come back to the safety, we come back to the nervous system, we come back to centering ourselves and grounding ourselves in the body, because that is where your ultimate truth lives. The minute you feel safe in your body is where you gain clarity in the mind. Otherwise, if we're always in the mind, we're going to be influenced by all the things that we've read, the things that we've heard, thoughts of the past, worries for the future. We're no longer living in the present.
Yeah.
The present moment lives in your body. It lives grounded here, in the tangible.
Yeah.
Imagination is future or past. Present is now. It's tangible. You can touch it.
Yeah, and you also mentioned something about the things that light you up, right? And I think many people think of looking for the things that light them up as a project. It's like a destination to get to. But it's not, right? The things that light you up in the past may not light you up in the future.
Yes.
May not light you up today. And I think that's the hardest piece, right? It's like if something like accounts and admin doesn't light me up, it's easy for me to drop, right? It's actually not easy. Sometimes I still have to do it. Or find someone else to do it, or find AI to do it. But there are certain things, right, that I used to really love so much.
Yeah.
I love with all my life, but life changed.
Yeah.
And then sometimes you just have that realization that seasons change. And I think that awareness that check-in. I think the key word here is checking in, checking with your body, checking with how that feels inside you. How does it feel somatically, viscerally?
Yeah.
How does the lighting up is also this element of this part of eyebrow. You have this lightness of being, you have this sense of wonder. It's not kind of like, I got to record this podcast and I you go and meet this person. You love them or you love doing it, but sometimes it becomes a chore. It becomes something that's repetitive, right? So this idea of lighting up.
And as you mentioned, just because it lit us up before,
Yeah.
right? And it doesn't anymore, if we're still attached to it, that's speaking to the identity that we mentioned earlier as well. Am I now identified with this practice, with this activity? It's no longer something that lights me up, but something I feel I have to do. I should do because I've always done it.
I hope this is not too much of an emotional whiplash here, but then you talk about lighting up and everything like that. You left Malaysia to go to UK because you want to get away.
Yes.
But after 20 years, you came back. What made you come back?
Very interesting. I came back on holiday.
And is it nasi lemak or is it laksa or what?
Yeah, I came out on holiday. I literally came out on holiday to spend some time at home because I hadn't lived here for so long and I very rarely came back as well. I came back on holiday and I'd been given a golden handshake at work. So I had a nice pay packet and I'd left the job because they were closing down and I was like, okay, I'll come home for a long holiday. And when I got back to Malaysia, I was like, I don't remember it like this. This is amazing. My pound goes a long way. My ringgit is like, ooh. And so I had a great summer holiday and I was at a juncture, a new crossroads in my life. I didn't have a job to go back to. And I was like, maybe it's time to move back here. And I follow my gut. And it's never failed me. I rarely think things through, very rarely. But I do my best to really honor what my gut feeling is. And my body 9 times out of 10 is right. So that's what I did. I went back to England. I packed up my life and I moved back. And that was 22 years ago, 2004.
Wow.
And the adjustment was huge. Of course, being in holiday mode and then suddenly moving back and building a life here was very different.
What was the hardest?
Integrating different mindset, different culture, getting to know the culture again here, not as a foreigner, not as a tourist in my own country, and building friends, networks. It was not easy, but not impossible.
I think this sort of conversation is very hard to have, right, without bleeding into this element of superiority, inferiority. It's like judgment of what's better and what's not so good, right? So obviously some people might listen to this and go like, oh, you're putting UK above Malaysia. But like we have been talking the whole day about, right, holding two dual realities, right? Holding two truths, right? Did it occur to your mind that there was this element of ranking or no, not at all?
No ranking at all. It's only what felt safe for me at the time. And I guess for me, it was easier for me to build a life in the UK because I guess once I went to boarding school, a whole world was being created in boarding school. And Malaysia just became the place that I visited for school holidays. And then I built my whole life in England. So it was just the choices, first of all, that were made for me. And ultimately, they weren't even made for me because my parents asked me if I wanted to go to boarding school. What a privilege. Yeah, and I said, absolutely yes. Not realizing at the time it facilitated me feeling like such a misfit at school here in Malaysia. So hard to explain retrospectively because at the time when I'm growing up, I'm just kind of following the flow of things and living in the moment.
What about the future? I mean, I know you want to live in the moment, right? But future, do you foresee yourself leaving Malaysia again?
No.
No?
The more and more time that I'm spending here, and even then, even though I moved back, I've been here 22 years, I was still traveling a lot. And probably only in the last 4 years, actually since 2020, have I really started to put some roots down. So even though I moved back, I was still going to Europe and the UK every year for 5 to 6 months.
Freedom is your value. That's why.
My value. And until I realized that a part of me was still running away.
You are a nomad.
A nomad, and now realizing more and more the reason why all these years, over 22 years that I've been back here, and the time before that, every time I tried to really move away permanently, something kept pulling me back. And it's because I'm needed here, I guess. And I need to be here.
By who?
My land, my people, I think we can never stray too far from our roots. I have had the privilege to travel the world. And through traveling the world and getting all that experience, it's for me to bring home and share here. And anyway, these days, the world is on the phone. You know, we're not limited to the country, the land that we live on.
Yeah.
But I do feel more and more connected to the land here.
Yeah.
I've made home here now.
It's a bit of the arc of the hero's journey, right? Of Joseph Campbell's, right? Going out, the adventure, and then returning home, and the quest, right?
Yes. You know, Malaysia is a beautiful country.
It is,
you know,
yeah.
And, you know, Malaysians, well, we all nationals of any country like to complain about the politics, about this and that, the other. But the bottom line is Malaysia is a beautiful country. It's a safe country, touch wood, and I even from a place of privilege, which I own fully, it's still safe. Wherever you are, whatever level there is, I feel a fundamental safety that we can lean into. Malaysia is a country that is diverse in compassion, in taste, in flavor, in people, in tradition, in culture, in everything.
Yeah.
And people flock here, so...
You should be made the ambassador of Malaysia tourism. So you talk a lot about safety. I think it would be remiss to not talk about this, because this one came up to me. I talk to a lot of people in my coaching, my workshops, and this whole piece around following your instinct, or being very, very instinctive, being very instinctual, following your gut feeling. It's like you have almost like done it to a level of unconscious competence. For a person who doesn't trust their intuition, that's the word, they don't trust their intuition, what advice can you give to them?
Well, that's another huge question. Start with a huge question, close with a huge question.
Yeah, circle, right? Full circle.
I love it.
Yeah.
I think, first of all, it's important for me to define, at least through my lens, the difference between instinct and intuition. Instinct is very much about survival.
Yep.
It's very much rooted in fear to keep you alive, okay? Intuition runs much deeper, and whereas instinct is in the moment. How do I act in a way right now in this moment to keep me safe?
Yep.
Intuition is a generational wisdom. It's what you've inherited in your DNA over generations, and then it's how you integrate that wisdom wholeheartedly by connecting into all the information of the present moment. So timelines disappear when you connect with your intuition. It's kind of, I guess it's a very profound way of explaining
some
it.
primordial soup of realities.
There are no timelines. So basically, we come into this world with our DNA, but our DNA is encoded with information that comes from all our ancestors, right? DNA passed down the generations, and there's all this wisdom, because whatever we experience in life, we feel, and it's encoded in our being and our DNA.
Wow.
This is my belief. This is what I've learned even through my shamanistic studies. So based on that concept, intuition is when we go quiet and we just tune in. Tune in means feel deeply. Attune yourself to the sensation, that feeling. It's not an emotion. It's a sense, an inner sense. So I call intuition your inner sense, which also play on words, is
Innocence.
your innocence, right? Innocence exists.
Got it.
Yeah, it exists. When we talk about being innocent, you haven't experienced anything yet. It's a pure place of connection. So it's taking the generations of information and experience, sitting in the present moment and integrating all that knowledge into the now and drawing what is relevant.
There's a certain level of connectedness in intuition, right? It's like this
Total
connectedness to...
It's a connectedness that allows you to take a step,
Yeah.
make a decision, serves to the highest level of both yourself, of all parties
Even
involved.
a self, but it's not self. It's kind of like your place in this world connected to the rest.
In this path, in this trajectory.
In this orbit.
Yes. So if I'm not tuning into my intuition, I'm living in my mind, then I'm under the influence of what I think is
Yeah.
the right decision.
Yeah.
What I think people need me to do.
Yeah.
What I think is going to make people safe. Right?
Beautiful. Beautiful way of landing this plane.
But if I'm intuitive, I'm feeling into what feels safe. I use the word safe again for me, because when I'm safe, it's like the oxygen mask. When I'm safe, I have the capacity to create and hold safety for my environment.
Beautiful. I've experienced a lack of safety growing up as a child, and I've come a long, long way, to really hold that safety within myself. It's still a work in progress. Let's be honest. There are days where you feel safe, there are days where you don't feel safe.
Yeah.
And it's always there, right? It's like this reptilian brain that's constantly monitoring. Where we need that vigilance, because if we don't have that vigilance about us, we're going to be very quickly knocked off our perch. We're going to find out about it very, very quickly. But safety is not a matter of just go, okay, I'm safe. I'm just going to keep my shoes off and just go lean back. It's like these two truths, right? There's this vigilance going on at the same time, but at the same time, that gives you that permission to be safe and to be able to kind of raise your bar, raise your threshold, right? So I saw a person who's like, I cannot speak, I don't like the public speaking, I'm very introvert, I'm very scared, I'm very nervous. That means you have a very low threshold for safety. But then once you've mastered that, you're going to go like, okay, I may not like doing it, but I'm not scared of it anymore.
Yeah.
I'm not afraid of doing it anymore. And if push comes to shove, I've got to do it.
And I know I have the capacity to take on to moment what comes.
The words capacity and safety. Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. We're going to land this plane, okay? We usually end our podcast with 3 quick fire questions. Okay. And you ready? Just short answers.
Ready, let's go. Okay, short answers.
Let's go. Short answers, right? So what's the most powerful question you have ever been asked before?
Why are you here?
Love it. Who is a mentor or supporter who has made the biggest difference in your life?
Ooh, that is a big question. Let's see.
Take your time.
Who is a mentor or supporter? It would have to be my mother. Right now, in this moment, that's my answer, my mom.
I'm going to double click on that. Why?
She has been my biggest challenge and struggle as I was growing up, and also the path for my greatest healing and growth. And she's 88 now, and I have such a high respect for her as an individual, what she's lived, and she still challenges me, and I love that. And she's given me the opportunity to learn how to continue doing my work, personal growth work and healing work, and to find a way to communicate to her where I am at and how much I respect her as an individual. Yeah, she's my biggest supporter and my biggest critic and my biggest mirror.
I love that.
I'm half of her, My genetics are half.
But the mirror part, I didn't see coming.
Yeah, she's my mirror. So I look in the mirror, and whatever judgments I have and anger, whatever resentment or frustration I have when I look in the mirror at her is a reflection of, okay,
Oh gosh,
what's going on in me? That's me.
I just had a moment. It's like my father as well.
How beautiful.
I need to breathe into that. All that judgment, all that.
Yeah. And then we project that, right?
It's a mirror. Thank you for that.
Thank you, Coen.
Final question. What's the most courageous things? You have done so many. Hard question, right? What's the most courageous thing you have done that's made all the difference in your life?
I do it almost, like you just said, almost every day, which is showing up against all the doubt that exists in my mind. No matter what, my mind says, no, you're not good enough, or you're not ready, or no one's going to believe you, or you're not there yet. Do it anyway. Thank you, Coen.
Thank you, Melissa. Thank you very much. Ladies and gentlemen, what a wonderful conversation I just had with Melissa. It's like, wow, we went to so many places that I never thought we would go to, but I always knew that about Melissa because when I first connected with her on LinkedIn and we met each other, there's always something about Melissa that I feel that I can really, really connect with, and I'm just so glad that it's taken us a few months, but we come to this place where we had this really beautiful conversation. And I hope that you have also benefited a lot, and also it's provoked some of your thoughts. And remember that it's like safety is not a state of affairs. Safety is a state of mind. And we can always raise that threshold of safety. And once we can do that, we are able to hold opposite truths in our minds. That to me is increasing your capacity to function, especially when you're triggered, or you function if you disagree with people. And you're going to see your world open up to you. I hope you find this to be useful. Let me know in the comments below if any of these ideas that you have practiced has been useful for you in your life. Let me know. Nothing makes me more thrilled than if these ideas have made a positive difference in your life. To the next episode, stay wholehearted. If you have enjoyed the show as much as I have creating it for you, I really appreciate if you can leave me a review wherever you're listening to this episode. And while you're there, why not subscribe so you will not miss a future episode? I'm on a mission to help people who have been told that they are too much, too sensitive, or too different reclaim their true voice and turn their lived experience into strength, clarity, and influence. If today's conversation stirred something in you, don't ignore it. That's your wisdom knocking. If you're a leader of a team or an organization ready to move beyond surface level performance and into wholehearted impact, I'll love to work with you. Invite me to speak, get coached, or explore how you can unleash your strengths and lead with courage, depth, and humanity. Till the next time, stay curious, stay brave, and stay wholehearted.